Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help mental health professionals grow their dream practices and live a life they love. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building tips. We invite you to take advantage of our private practice paperwork and our signature marketing e-course. And we have a gift for you. This is the exact methodology we use to create our six-figure private pay practices and have helped many other therapists do the same. Go to privatepracticestartup.com and on the homepage, click the button to download a free copy of your dream private practice playbook. Now on to today's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, the Private Practice Startup. Wow, it's been quite a few years that we've been doing this. We are rounding out our full 6th year and moving into our 7th year. So if you've been with us from the beginning, you've probably seen and experienced our growth and our podcast progress transformation over the years. It reminds me of when Kate and I used to hunch over the snowball mic where our necks would ache because it was so small and so short, and we felt like we needed to podcast from the same room, and it was much drier and more structured and more boring. So we hope you've been enjoying the podcast. And if this is your first time getting to know us, welcome. Great to have you at our last recording of 2022 as we move into 2023. So before I introduce today's guest on our topic, we hope that you guys joined us last week. I had the pleasure about a year ago of reading Nicole Lewis-Keebler's book called How to Love Your Business and Stop Recreating Trauma, so you can have a business that loves you. So if you missed that, very interesting take on our trauma and how that shows up in our business. So if you are listening to this podcast, you are a private practice owner and you're a therapist, and we love all that good stuff. So I would definitely take a look at her book and definitely listen to the podcast for sure. Today's guest is Katie Miles, licensed marriage and family therapist, and we're going to be talking about building and growing a therapy practice that fits your personality type. This is the first time we're actually having this type of podcast, and you guys unanimously voted for this title specifically. She had a few, but you guys were most interested in this. So I'm eager to hear what she has to say. But before we get started, I just want to share with you a little bit about Katie. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist who runs a successful practice in San Diego, California. She's founder of Habitbetter, an all-in-one private practice online management system for therapists and coaches designed to help you master your practice and help your clients build better habits to reach milestones more efficiently. As a licensed marriage and family therapist, Katie specializes in helping individuals, couples, and families to build and maintain healthy relationships. She stays sane while running her 2 businesses by prioritizing play and spending as much time on the beach as possible with a psychological thriller in hand. Sounds like a girl after my own heart. I love that stuff.
Yes, that's the best.
Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I swear, psychological thrillers, it's the only type of book I'll pick out and read, and it just gets me through life. I don't know what it is. I'm just drawn to that kind of thing.
Girl. Me too. It must be a Katie thing because all 3 of us love the psychological thrillers.
Oh, good. Okay, well, now we know. Now I know where it comes from.
Well, I'm going to ask you in just a second, but I want to take a quick moment for our sponsor before we dive into today's topic.
Is managing your practice stressing you out? Try Therapy Notes. It makes notes, billing, scheduling, and telehealth a whole lot easier. Check it out, and you will quickly see why Therapy Notes is the highest rated EHR on trustpilot.com with over 1,500 verified customer reviews and an average customer rating of 4.9 and 5 stars. You'll notice the difference from the first day you sign up for a free trial. They offer live phone support 7 days a week, so when you have questions, you can quickly reach out to someone who can help, and you're never wasting your time looking for answers. If you're coming from another EHR, they make the transition really easy. Therapy Notes will import your client's demographic data free of charge during your trial, so you can get going right away. Use the promo code PPS, as in Private Practice Startup, to get 2 free months to try out Therapy Notes for free with absolutely no strings attached. And remember, telehealth is included with every subscription, absolutely free. Make 2022 the best year yet with Therapy Notes.
All right, Katie, best psychological thriller book you've read?
Oh my gosh.
Or one of your favorites.
So many. Okay, yeah.
Best.
You know, it's always the hardest question to answer. You know what I really loved, and this actually might fall in line with the audience really well since we're all therapists and into psychology, is the silent patient. It is so good.
That was
so
good.
Fantastic. Yeah, I really loved that one.
I enjoyed that one too. I have to share one that I read recently. I read it about 6 months ago, maybe even closer to a year ago, and it has stuck with me. It's a little bit of an older book, but it was so good, you guys. It kept me captivated. I could barely stop reading it. I think I read it in 2 days. It's called Intensity by Dean Koontz. It was ridiculously good. It takes place in the wine country out in California, which is my happy place, with these psychology students, and there's a serial killer on the loose. It was good.
Oh, that'll be my next one then. Intensity.
Yeah, it really takes after the name. It is the most intense page turner. It was so good. Anyway,
so it's interesting. We're recording this podcast literally just a few days before Halloween, and that's absolutely my favorite holiday of the year. I love the month of October for everything about Halloween. And it's funny because I don't like horror movies, but I will only watch horror movies in October because I don't know, it's just the spirit of Halloween. So other than that, I'm watching the ID channel, and people laugh when I say the ID channel is so soothing because the voice of the ID channel is so monotone, and I fall asleep to it. It's very relaxing. Anyways, so that's all about our psychological thriller discussion, but let's turn it over to Katie and talk about, building a practice that really fits your personality type. But Katie, where did your story start? Where did you start in therapy and private practice?
Yeah. So, it actually started with what I like to call my quarter life crisis, and ultimately a panic attack is what led me to where I am today. Ultimately, really, if you would have told me when I was, 20 years old that I was going to be a licensed therapist and I was going to own 2 business, I would have been like, come again? What? This is not what I planned for my life. Yeah. Who is she? I don't know that person. And I was a theater major. I pursued acting since I was a wee little one. And I kind of formulated that plan when I was, 6 years old, and I just ran with it. And I did really love it. I still love it. I'll take improv classes every now and then just to kind of fill that bucket. But once I got to actually doing it as a career, I graduated from UT Austin, started pursuing it, and it was not at all fulfilling me. And that was such an earthquake to me because it was my plan my entire life. So I had a full-on panic attack, my first one when I was working a shift at a restaurant. So that was super fun. And luckily I had access to a therapist that I'd already been seeing for years. And so we did a lot of work together and really spent time identifying what drew me to theater in the first place. What did I like about that? What are my values? And then looking at also what was my personality type? How was I motivated? What were the types of things that I did when I was feeling good, and the types of things that I did when I was under stress? And what are the types of things that drive me and ultimately that I'm seeking and looking for? And through all that, I narrowed it down to actually 2 avenues that I was interested in taking. One was journalism, and then one was psychology and therapy. And I ended up choosing the latter. And thank God that worked out. I went to grad school and ended up loving it. And that's how I got here today, is really identifying that what I loved about theater and acting was actually connecting to other people's stories and the intimate study of human behavior and the novelty that comes with it. Every single session is different, and every single client you work with is different. And that was really important to my ultimate fulfillment and the thing that got me up in the morning and kept me going. And so that's how I'm here today. Panic attack. So I recommend it for everyone. Just have your first panic attack.
Leave it to restaurant work. That'll do it for you.
Really, just working in a restaurant, that will induce it on its own. You're fine.
The weeds dreams are the worst, right? You wake up and you're like, oh my God, table 59. I totally forgot to bring them the mustard.
Yes.
Why didn't they say something?
I still have some of those.
Yes, I was just about to say, they never go away. I will still have that where I'm riding a bus carrying drinks and I have to go to my table across town, and then I have to run back to the other table across town. It's terrible.
Yep.
That's funny. Ooh, maybe you could write a psychological psychological thriller on that. I don't know, mixing out all your experiences, but very cool story. I have a friend and colleague, Kim Eli, who was a theater major as well and became a therapist, and she just sees so many similarities to it. So I love that you share about the stories and the deep personal connection and things like that. So very cool.
Yeah, a lot of us jumped over from theater to therapy.
Yeah, I see. So tell us a little bit about, how to build a private practice that really fits your personality type and is aligned with your values.
Yeah. So I think really what happened, I have this story that when I was in grad school, I remember my professor asked the class a question, like he was trying to be like, who are introverts and who are extroverts? I think he was trying to prove a point that most therapists are introverts. And so he asked the extrovert question first, who identifies as an extrovert? And I, like, of course, being the expert, like threw my hand in the air. I was like, me. And I was the only one. And then he asked the introvert question, and everyone raised their hand. And I was just like, uh-oh. Like I immediately started feeling like I needed to perhaps be someone else. And that stuck with me for a while. And I started trying to adopt the traits of my cohort, the ones that maybe seemed to me like they were more like quote unquote therapists, and kind of like the seriousness with which they would approach their clients, and kind of that, even like that academia mindset. And they were really hardcore into like their theories and evidence-based. And those are all very important things. But I noticed I really started to adopt who I thought I was supposed to be as a therapist. And surprise, surprise, that wasn't really going well. When I got into my practicum, I was trying to play the part of a therapist, and I wasn't really connecting with my clients. And it wasn't until I got paired with this supervisor, who is still one of my dearest and nearest, who introduced me to the idea that I can be really authentic in my sessions. And she is a very relational therapist, and she does attachment work, and really introduced me to that realm. And I started showing up as me as a therapist. And it was really scary at first, because I wasn't sure how clients were going to react. And there was a part of me who, I think a part of all of us, like, we want our clients to accept us and, want to be in the room with us. And once I started being myself, I noticed not only did I connect really well to the clients that I was working with, but I also was able to be a better therapist in the room. And I felt better when I left the room, even when the session wasn't like the greatest session in the world, or even, when it didn't very much go well, or even when I didn't click with the client. It wasn't because I was a bad therapist. It was, we're not the right fit. I'm not the right fit for this client. And that really changed how I approached therapy in general, and how I approached how I wanted to continue to form my career. Because trying to take on the personality of who I thought a therapist was supposed to be was leading me down another road, probably towards another panic attack, where I was going to be like, this isn't for me. I'm not feeling fulfilled. I don't want to show up to work. I don't want to show up to my sessions because it didn't feel good. And so that really was what solidified it for me, of like, hey, you gotta build this or approach this based off of who you are as a therapist. And we're not all cookie cutters, and we don't have to be cookie cutters. So I really started looking at my personality and my values and how I want to build my practice around that, so I can ultimately be a great therapist for the clients who are a good fit for me.
Love it. You're speaking our private practice love language.
Yes.
That's so many things that you said, and I'm sure Kate's thinking some of the same things. So one of the things that you shared is just authenticity, right? And early on in our podcast career, if you will, that seemed to be a general theme, and we would ring what we'd call the authenticity cowbell. So we're ringing that for you now. Yay! That's so important. And the other thing that I think Kate might be thinking is when we were younger therapists, we had an idea of what a therapist looked like to the world. And it's funny because when we both got our first, I was going to say mug shots, first headshots, we both actually looked like attorneys or realtors, right? We both literally had black jackets with white collared shirt and button down. And it was funny because it's like, that's not us. But it took some time to live into the expression of ourselves as therapists. And I also think there's been a movement, in therapy over time where we've gone really from that like Sigmund Freud type of therapist and to really like therapists really living authentically, pairing the things that they love and enjoy, whether they're a yoga instructor or expressive arts, and they're pairing that with the work that they do. And how beautiful is that to give and serve clients that way, where you're giving a lot of yourself, not just a part of yourself. So it's just a beautiful thing that I think has occurred over time in our field, and really just the permission to be you and show up as you. And you're right. Even though a session might not go great, you know that you did your best, and, you showed up as you and you weren't someone else.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really like, it's that humanness that creates the most growth and movement, right? That I think clients can really, I know me as a client, right? You can sense like when your therapist is connected and being authentic. And I got a really big lesson with that when I worked for a while with this program called the Second Chance program in San Diego, where you work with nonviolent drug offenders who had an opportunity to, leave prison, and then they have to go to therapy and kind of do all these other things. But I was the therapist for one of them. And oh my God, they can spot inauthenticity a mile away. They don't respond well to, I'm the, put together expert in the room. As soon as you start to do that, they're out of there. They are not responding. And so they were also served as a really great reminder for me that being human, being authentic, and allowing yourself even to like things to just be messy, right? Not having to be this expert or know the right answer for everything. In fact, just saying like, man, I don't know. Let's explore that together. They show up for that, right? It's the most healing part of therapy. If we block that, we're not doing great work, I think.
Yeah. It's this whole continuum too, right? So it's like goes from this rigid place of who you think you're supposed to be and showing up inauthentically because you think you're supposed to be that way, but then realizing, oh no, this is not working. And then kind of taking those layers off and allowing yourself to be more authentic, more human, show up, authentically as you are. And it's so freeing when you get to that place to just be yourself and to connect with people. And that's what people really connect to and resonate with. They don't resonate with that rigidity and, that other side of the continuum. Tell us a little bit about some of the tips that you have, Katie, to share with our audience about how to build a private practice that really fits your personality type.
And before we do that, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor.
If you're a business owner, the last thing you want to spend your time on is handling payroll, employee benefits, time off requests, and everything else that comes along with managing a team. Let Gusto take these tasks off your plate. Gusto offers all-in-one payroll and HR for growing businesses. From full-service payroll and benefits to team management tools and more, Gusto makes it easy for you to support your hardworking team all in one intuitive platform. Gusto is loved by both businesses and employees. For businesses, having everything in one place is a game changer. With Gusto, most customers are able to run payroll in 10 minutes or less. And Gusto helps with the hard stuff too, like filing payroll taxes, compliance, new state tax registration, and more. Employees love that Gusto's interface is modern, fresh, and extremely intuitive and organized. Whether your team is in person, remote, or a combination, with Gusto, keeping your team on track is easy. Join the more than 200,000 new and growing businesses that are using Gusto to build a great workplace for their employees. Right now, Gusto is offering our listeners 3 months for free at gusto.com/PPS, as in the private practice startup. Get easy payroll, benefits, HR, and a happier team. Go to gusto.com/PPS today.
Let's face it, whenever the federal government institutes new policies, it can be very confusing and overwhelming. As a therapist in private practice, you need to assure your paperwork is up to par with the legal and ethical requirements. In January 2022, the government released a new regulation for medical professionals, including therapists, called the No Surprises Act. But don't stress trying to figure out everything you need to know about the new act and requirements. We've got you covered. This is for therapists who are private pay or work with clients who choose not to use their insurance. So unless you work exclusively with insurance, it is essential to abide by this regulation. We are giving you our good faith estimate bundle for free. It includes attorney-approved customizable templates, a required website statement, a script with a video that goes step by step on how to discuss this with your clients. And don't forget to check out the podcast with our healthcare law attorney answering all your questions about the Good Faith Estimate and No Surprises Act. Download your free Good Faith Estimate bundle, a total value of $249, but you get it for free by visiting our website, privatepracticestartup.com. Look under the resources tabs and there you'll see it there. Go to privatepracticestartup.com under the resources tab.
Go ahead, Katie, tell us.
So really, I got this advice when I was first starting to form a private practice. I went to this private practice workshop. It's fantastic. Dr. Cassie Freitas is the owner of it. And she led us through a values clarification exercise. And she really nailed down the message of like, make this for you. When you are building this private practice, like you need to build something that you want to show up for. Being like an entrepreneur takes a lot of sacrifice as it is. And there are a lot of things that you're probably going to have to show up for that aren't really fun, that you don't really want to have to do, that just are the nature of the task itself. But when you're starting to build this thing, when you're starting to see how you want to show up and who you want to show up for and what you want to show up to, you start with values. And values clarification has been my compass, honestly, for building both of my businesses. Values and personality, I think, come together really, really well, because values are about how you want to be in the world and ultimately what fulfills you. And I think, going back to that grad school experience and even looking at my early therapist experience when I was working at a hospital system, at the hospital system, there's a lot of program building, right? And they come to you and there's a lot of opportunity. They're like, hey, do you want to build this program? Do you want to be a part of this and this? And I was kind of like falsely valuing what I thought I was supposed to be valuing as somebody who wanted to be successful or somebody who wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I was valuing like legacy, achievement, being the best. And that is not me. That's not who I am. I do love succeeding at things, but when it comes down to my personality type, that is not what drives me. And so I started saying yes to these programs and like doing these things outside of being like just being in sessions with clients. And I started realizing like, I'm really grumpy. I'm really resentful. Like I'm not wanting to show up to work. And it's because I was valuing the wrong things. That's not how I wanted to show up in the world. And so, a couple of my values, some things that are really important to me, especially when it comes to career, are freedom and flexibility. And that is because my personality type, I am, just to maybe give something that most people are connected to. I know there are a lot of different personality typings out there, but Enneagram. So I'm, pretty clearly an Enneagram 7. And an Enneagram 7 is somebody who is driven by like spontaneity, novelty. We're optimistic people, and we really are motivated by kind of like fun. And so because of that, I really value freedom and flexibility. And so that is a simple example of how that shows up in the way I built my private practice is how I even schedule, right? How I set up my days and my schedule. So if I was valuing the wrong thing, right? If I was still trying to be like what I thought my cohort was like, very like professional, and I want to, be the best and be available, I would have probably started taking 8 a.m. sessions and 7 p.m. sessions and just being available all the time for my clients, because that's what a therapist is supposed to be. And ultimately, at the beginning of my private practice, because of scarcity, I started to do that. And then I had a very good friend who said, no, don't do that to yourself. You know who you are. You know your personality. This isn't going to go well. And I started making my schedule that aligned with freedom and flexibility. And essentially what it does for me is throughout my day, I start my clients at a certain time and I end them at a certain time. And I make sure I have breaks in between. Because if I don't get breaks and playtime and fun and allow myself to kind of jump into other projects throughout the day because I really do like novelty, I don't do well. I start to feel cranky. I start to feel burnt out. But when I do honor my values, I am happier, I am healthier, I am more generous, and I'm also less reactive of a person. So I can make decisions more intentionally and continue to make decisions that align with my values. So starting with values clarification, I think, is the best thing that you can do when you're looking into building any kind of business, but, private practice.
I love that. And and one of the things I was kind of adding to put in our show notes is for you, because you keep referencing personality tests and type. So therapists, you're right, probably know their personality type, whether it's the MMPI, I go by the DISC profile. I know Kate also knows about the Enneagram too. And so it's if you're not sure, maybe just kind of reviewing or reading a little bit about you and seeing where you're connected with. And Kate and I are big on brand values. And, we actually have an exercise through our e-course program that we lead therapists through. And it's interesting. We talk about doing the exercise intuitively. Don't think, right? Just go through the word, like me, not like me, most like me, and then we help them bring it down to 7, but 3. What are those 3 brand values that you're really aligned with? And it becomes, we believe all businesses should do this. And many of the great businesses do this, is that the decisions of your business, whether who to hire, who to partner with, what to do next, for us, always go back to our brand values. Is this in alignment or is it not? And it's not do we need to fill the position? Do we not? Is this a good person? Is this not? It's just does this align, with our brand values? And it makes things so easy. But it is a work to get there sometimes.
It is.
It is.
Mm-hmm. I love how you're talking about building your business around your personality, around your values. And I love the examples that you gave about the freedom and flexibility and how that fits your personality type. And I think it's going to be so helpful for our audience to really reflect on. So no matter where you are in your stage of business building and private practice, whether you're just getting started out or whether you've been in practice for years, but you've never taken the time to do this. And maybe your business isn't in alignment with how you really want it to be. It's never too late. It's always the perfect time to really take a step back, reflect on your personal values, your brand values, to really get clear on, are you building a business or are you running and owning a business that is really meeting your needs at this stage and phase of life? Because maybe, when you first started in private practice, you're at one stage and 8 years later, you're at a completely other stage of life. There's many transitions that we all go through naturally at the different phases of life that we're in. And so if we have a business that's built around our life and our personality and it really works, we can reevaluate, we can make changes so that we continue to stay in alignment with our business. And it's a business that we love and it works for us at any stage of life. And that's the great thing about being your own boss and having the freedom and flexibility to make your business work for your life at whatever you're needing at any particular time. And that is such important work, because I feel like that's really what helps to make it or break it for people when it comes to keeping your passion alive, keeping, your business in a place where it doesn't completely suck the life out of you, because it can do that if you are not in alignment.
Oh yeah. And I love what you were kind of saying about continually checking in with your values. Because they can shift, because values need to be prioritized at different times. Our personality is quite stable, right? Kind of the way we are wired, or our temperament. But we might need to prioritize different things at different times. And that's where values can really sync up very well with personality. Is you're still considering who you are and what motivates you and how you operate. But there might be times where I needed to value maybe financial stability, a little bit more than freedom and flexibility. And a lot of this, you have to consider privilege, right? And the resources that you have available to you. And so I want to add that it is a privilege to be able to just fly head on into, I want to value freedom and flexibility. And so this is how I'm going to do it. There were times that wasn't necessarily what I needed to prioritize, but I was still able to connect with my personality by knowing who I was and what runs me, but also looking at this might be what I need right now is financial stability. But what I'm working towards is a place where I can build something that really does work for me. So knowing that fluctuation does happen and we have to prioritize different things at different times. And that doesn't necessarily mean you are building the wrong thing, but you are being mindful about what you're building and what is important to you and what resources that you have. And all those things can be worked together.
I love this conversation. Yeah. And I wish we could just go on for hours and hours talking about this because it's such an important topic. And, at different stages of life, different stages of business, it is so important to stay connected to this and take a moment to reflect and make sure you continue to stay in alignment with your personality and what you're needing at that particular stage. Katie, thank you for being here today and talking about this with us and our audience. What do you want Startup Nation to take away from your message today?
Be okay with being who you are. That's the message, because I think that was the stories I was working against or struggling with for a while, is not quite accepting who I was and thinking I needed to be somebody different in order to be successful or in order to get to where I needed to go. Again, if you had asked me at 20 years old, I would have been like, no, I'm not going to run 2 businesses. That's not who I am. I am not that responsible of a person. And I would have thought I needed to change who I am, but I was able to be who I am and honor who I am and still do the thing that I wanted to do. So you don't have to change yourself to do what you want. Like, you can be who you are because you are going to offer something very unique to what you are doing. Don't try to be a cookie cutter. You are going to reach the people that you need to reach by being who you are.
I love it.
Love it. This has been a great conversation. And we hope that you all enjoyed this. I know that Kate and I always love this stuff. So we hope that you guys join us next time. Katie, thank you so much for being here. We'll put the links and resources that Katie has on our show notes page. You can find her on social media. So go to the show notes page at privatepracticestartup.com, look under the episodes tab, and there you'll see it. Next time, we are talking to Ann O'Brien on how to build a therapist referral community that not only benefits the clients, but also benefits therapists. So definitely check that out.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. Katie, it was great having you on today. And Startup Nation, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We always encourage you to rate, subscribe, and review. You can do that on our show notes page. And of course, share the episode with your friends and fellow colleagues who might need it most. We love being able to support you along your journey. And if there's a topic that we haven't talked about in our 310 episodes, definitely let us know. And we will look forward to seeing you on the next one. In the meantime, stay inspired, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.